Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun to join the YouTube trend that's going around right now of the eyeshadow palette tag. I believe it was started by Samantha March and Allie Glines, so I'm going to tag them down below, their accounts as well as their videos pertaining to this tag. And I think they started it last year with like a version 1, and now this is the version 2 that's circulating currently. So I'm going to also share the questions from version 2. I'll put those down below as well. And I've seen this from a few different creators. I've seen theirs, I've seen Ava Choose do it as well, and I think it's just a lot of fun, I mean generally, to go through my eyeshadow palette collection and kind of figure out which palettes match these category titles. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. In case you're curious, I did film this eyeshadow look as well, and I will link that down below. And without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so the first question in the eyeshadow palette tag is, what is your all-time favorite palette? And for me, I would have to say the Lush Life palette from ColourPop. Every time I think about great, dynamic, interesting, beautifully executed and well-formulated eyeshadow palettes, I think of the Lush Life palette. This was in my top 3 for ColourPop ranking all together, and I think it was probably their best release of 2021. It's just gorgeous. The way that they curated the colors, the way, again, well-formulated. I mean, this dark blue and this dark green, these are generally difficult colors to formulate, but ColourPop just knocked it out of the park. They're beautiful, pigmented, buildable, gorgeous colors. And then it has a lot of unexpected colors. Like you've got this row over here, which is more reddish corals, and then over here you've got a little more brown leaning, but then you've got golds and pops of green, this lime green, I use it all the time. This is just a beautiful and well done palette, and the packaging is on point. Like we've got little toucans, and we've got raised embossed elements, there's gold, there are details all over the place. It's just so well done. My only complaint, honestly, my only complaint with this palette is this reflective gold inner packaging. BH Cosmetics does it a lot with silver, and I find it, the gold is not as distracting as the silver, but I find it super distracting because it actually, for me, it draws away from the shadows. Like I want the shadows to be in a very neutral background so that I can see what the colors truly are instead of having to compete with the packaging around them. But this is a great palette and is definitely one of my all-time faves. Okay, so the next prompt is your new favorite palette, and right now that would have to go to the Cat's Breath palette from Glines. I did a look with this one, it's actually on my YouTube channel, and I just fell in love with it. Okay, first off, so ordering the palette, I knew I was gonna fall in love with it because I loved the color story. Like I just adore this vibrant orange and this teal green over here. It's a little more green than blue. And then every color inside the palette complements it, and you've got this Tiffany color up here, which is just gorgeous. I love the colors and the shadows in this palette, and then I love, Glines has literally the best packaging I've seen yet. I mean, ColourPop's like a close second. They do a great job with their cardboard packaging, but Glines knocks it out of the park. They have interesting, varied patterns and details. They have beautiful designs, which are unique. They're not just generic photos, they're just they're just really well done. They're just really well done. These palettes are kind of like a book format. The Saga of Freya came in, there were 3 palettes I think in this collection. One of them was a book where, you know, you opened this way and there was a palette, and then you opened this way and there was a palette. And then there was the Cat's Breath palette, and there was the Amber Tears, I think that was the name of the other one. But Cat's Breath honestly was the only one that really caught my eye, and when I saw it online, I fell in love with it. When I saw it in person, I loved it even more, and then when I used it on my eyes, I got this beautiful look, and so beautiful. So this one right now would have to go as my current fave. The next prompt is wondering, what palette do you keep for the memories? And it wasn't hard for me to choose Take Me Back to Brazil from BH Cosmetics. This palette is probably the first one that I ever got, which was very colorful. When I first started eyeshadow almost a year ago, I bought a lot of the ColourPop monochromatic palettes, and I bought this one because I wanted something that was more rainbow. I loved it because it was very affordable. I have to say the quality is not there. I mean, the quality is just not great. BH Cosmetics has 3 formulas. They've got not great, they've got pretty good, and then they've got fantastic. For example, the Passion in Paris and Blueberry Muffin, Mimosa, those palette formulas are fantastic. The Sweet Shop palettes I've heard are also fantastic. A lot of the newer releases are fantastic. And then the less great quality is a little bit older, as you would expect, and then we've got the oldest version as far as I'm aware of. And this The quality's not great, but I keep it because now and then I just want to dive into it and mess around with all these different colors. I like that even though there are tons of shadows, the pan sizes are so small that you don't get overwhelmed. Like, I've seen there were some mega palettes out there that are like mega, they're enormous, and I just look at them and I get overwhelmed thinking about all of the shadows in there, all of the shadows that you'll never use, all of the shadows you'll never hit pan on. You could do a billion looks and just never quite get through it all. And it's just overwhelming when there are so many colors in such volume. But this is, yes, it's a lot of colors, but they're just a little bit of each of them, so it's less daunting to me. I don't know, I'm not sure if that makes sense. This palette does not really have shimmers. Like this second row and the fourth row, they have a shimmery quality to them, but when you put them on the eyes, they look pretty much the same as the mattes. It's just, I have so many much better palettes in my collection now. I could easily get rid of this and honestly not miss it. I think I probably will at some point declutter this Take Me Back to Brazil palette, but for now, it's just a palette I keep for the memories because this takes me back to the very beginning of when I was getting interested in eyeshadow. The next prompt is, what is a palette in your collection which is underrated? I would have to go with the Elva 2 Mini Forest palette from Udenzi. The reason I chose this one is because I've only been in eyeshadow, like, involved in this world for 11 months now. So pretty much everything in my collection is newer releases. It was actually difficult for me to choose some palettes for this prompt because I haven't even been doing this a year, so everything I have is pretty well modern, current, new formulas, up-and-coming companies. There's nothing that's really antiquated or old school or anything within my collection. So I chose this palette as the most underrated because I have literally never heard of it except from Angelica Nyquist when she's talking about the bigger palettes, like the Elva 2 and the Norns palettes are the bigger palettes within the collections when they're released. Well, these are mini palettes within those same collections, and the big palettes get all the love, and the mini ones, you just never hear about them. At least I haven't heard about them, and to be fair, I don't spend tons of time on YouTube looking for things, but I think that this palette is underrated. For one, it's got a nice combination of two mattes. I wish it had one more matte and one fewer shimmer, but this is a matte and this is a matte. They're both really pigmented and they work well together, and then both of them work well with any or all of the shimmers in the palette. I used this look in an Instagram reel where I did like the green, yellow, what did I do? Green, yellow, blue, brown side of things. I don't think I dipped into this shade, but I think I touched the rest of them. I don't remember, honestly. I remember using this palette in a reel, coming up with something that was more yellowy green and really, really liking it. So I know Udenzi is a great formula. I just think that this palette doesn't get enough love. Okay, so the next prompt in this list is, what is a palette that is not a favorite, but you just can't quite get rid of it? For me, that would be the High Tide palette from ColourPop. Again, it was hard to pick because I really like all of my palettes. This is one that I don't often reach for. I really like this palette. It's well done. It's got some seriously beautiful tones. The reason I keep it is because even though I have a couple of these colors smattered throughout my collection, I keep this because it's really well done and I know it works well, and when I think teal, this is what I go for. The difficulty is that now I have a couple really good teals as part of other palettes that have coordinating or contrasting colors. And so I don't usually reach for my monochromatic palettes anymore because now I like to branch out into other combinations, like color combinations. This is a really solid palette. It's not a favorite because honestly, I don't reach for it that much, but I can't quite get rid of it because I know it's so good. And whenever I want to have a teal heavy look, or if I want to grab a teal to help add dimension and depth to a look, then I would think about High Tide. So the next prompt is, what is your favorite collaboration? And I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. My favorite collaborative palette is the At Forest site between ColourPop and Raw Beauty Kristi. Come on, guys. This is not a surprise to anyone. This is so many people's favorite collaboration. This palette is amazing. It's beautifully decorated, beautifully designed, beautifully curated, beautifully thought out, beautifully executed. It's so well done. Just like I said before with the Lush Life palette, these deep blues and greens are quite difficult to formulate, but they just blew it out of the water. They just killed it. It's got variety, it's got different tones, it's got mainly mattes, it's definitely more matte heavy, which I prefer, and then a couple shimmers which work with every matte in the palette. This palette is so well done. Honestly, one of my favorite parts about this palette apart from the palette itself, is that I went on Christy's YouTube channel and I watched her videos that she had created talking about the palette, how she came up with the colors, how she lives in the Pacific Northwest, and she went on her computer and like got the little color picker tool, found pictures of Portland and other areas in that part of the country, and she went and selected colors out of nature, which explains to me why these colors work together so well, because they're designed by God. Like, he's the one who put all these colors in one spot, and they're just gorgeous together. And so I love that. I love the elements in her video where she's talking about her excitement over the launch, and you know, she's got some clips of her like receiving the phone call when ColourPop said, hey, we want to collab with you. She's got videos of her getting the palette itself in the mail, and she's got behind the scenes with her photo shoot and for promotional photos, and how she was very pregnant at the time, and ColourPop brought a film crew out to her, and they had her all dolled up and dressed up, and it's just a really heartwarming couple of videos about the At Forest Sight palette, how it was conceived, how it was created, and it's been done so well. It takes the idea of an eyeshadow palette, which is a very, you know, ordinary thing, and it brings a new level of personality and poignancy to it. So this is my favorite collaboration for many reasons. Oh no.
What?
Oh, the shadow broke.
Which one?
The glitter one, and got glitter everywhere. Oh dear. The next prompt is, what is your favorite from 2021? So I would have to say, again, a couple of these palettes honestly could easily fit within most of these categories. However, I wanted to choose a different palette for each prompt. So for this prompt, I picked the Child palette from ColourPop. It was the ColourPop X Mandalorian collection. This one I literally just picked up and discovered, much to my chagrin, that my shadow over here shattered. And so I am now covered in beautiful gold glittery eyeshadow. I'll clean that up after the video. I'll go find my vacuum and try not to trek glitter across the house. But anyway, this is a very beautiful palette. I would have to say this was actually one of my top 3 ColourPop palettes. So it doesn't surprise me that I pulled it out for my, 2021 favorite. This palette's so well done. I love the olivey green tones, but they're not too grungy. Like, they're a little more on the spring green side of olive. And I love how you can go warm toned if you want with this side of things. But then you can go cool toned as well with this side of things. And then up here you have a really beautiful highlight shade. I love it when a palette has a highlight shade. This palette's just very well done. It's well curated. It's beautiful formula. It works like a dream, and you can get a lot of variety from this palette. It's not monochromatic. It's just really nice. I also love the details. Little baby Yoda is adorable, and then these cute little random dots everywhere, and then like the names of the shades, like, first off, this says cutest in the galaxy with a mirror. But the names of the shades, like this one says Little Frog. And I don't know, I don't understand most of the references because I'm not really a Star Wars fan, but Little Frog is a cute name. And I kind of want to dip into the Little Frog shade every time I do a tutorial so that I can say Little Frog. And then they put a little frog here. I don't know. I don't get the reference, but it's cute and I like it. So this would definitely be one of my favorites from 2021. The next prompt is, what is a palette which you didn't expect to love? I would have to choose the Opal for October Birthstone palette from BH Cosmetics, and there's a caveat to this. I don't love this entire palette. I hate the glitters. The glitters in these are awful. I just pretend that they're not there. The orange and the pink shade are unexciting. Like, they're not bad, but I have an entire pastel palette from BH Cosmetics, so I didn't really need those. These two shades, again, unremarkable, although this one's kind of pretty. The shades in this palette, which make it my whole didn't expect to love, are this matte blue and the shimmery green. These two shades are stunning. I just want to put them all over my lid. The next time I do a look with this, I'm going to do green and blue, and it's going to be amazing because these two shades blew me away. If you watch my video for this palette, you will see that the whole look was just totally unexciting, and I expected to be like, I guess, about the entire palette until I dipped into these two shades and put them on my eyes, and I put them on my lower lash line. I was floored. So this is definitely a palette. I don't love the whole thing, but I didn't expect to love any of it, and I definitely really love two of the shadows. All right, the next prompt is, what is a palette which sparks joy? Now, I'll be honest, almost every palette in my collection sparks joy. If it doesn't spark joy, I get rid of it. If I don't like it, don't use it, I get rid of it. So my palette is curated to be a whole pile of eyeshadow palettes that make me go, so pretty. And I really want to play with them, and I want to try different looks with them. So as far as sparking joy, it's almost every eyeshadow palette I own. But the Glam Light palettes, they take me a little bit higher than that, specifically the Dirty Martini palette and Michaela as well. But the Dirty Martini palette, I just adore these colors. I love the vibrancy and the depth and the pigmentation, and it's like jewel-toned heaven. But there's no purple, there's no pink, there's no red or orange. It's just greeny bluish, and I love it. I love the color story and I love the quality. I used this yesterday in a video which is going to be uploaded pretty soon, and I had so much fun. I just think it's a beautiful palette, and it makes me smile every time I see it. It makes me smile every time I put it on my eyes. This is a palette, the Dirty Martini from Glam Light, which absolutely sparks joy. Okay, we're almost finished here, and the next prompt is, what is the newest palette in your collection? Now that one was easy because I just got the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This one I got off of a Poshmark, which is a discount app. This is featured in one of my most recent videos entitled The Benefits of Buying Bargain, where I also talk about BH Cosmetics and their newest announcement. But this palette, I bought it for like $40 off retail, and I was pretty excited about that. So this is the newest palette in my collection, and I've done 2 looks with it actually, one of which I tried to film, didn't work out, the second of which I did film and is live on YouTube right now. And I think it's a really nice palette. You know, I find that I don't rave about the quality of this product because of its high price point. Like, if you're gonna charge $70 for an eyeshadow palette, it had better be like fantastic quality eyeshadow. And this one is, it's very good. I know some people had some problems with it. I think some people had problems with just a couple specific shades. I haven't used every shade, I've swatched every one, but I have probably dipped into 2/3 of the shades and used them on my lids, and I haven't had any problems yet. So I do like that. I think that the looks I get from this are a little bit more refined, they feel a little bit higher class because they're not glam in your face kinds of shimmers. So that's an interesting element. But as far as the formula, I haven't had any problems with this. I just think that the reason I don't rave about it is because if I get incredible formula for $15 through BH or ColourPop or Beauty Bay or, you know, Glam Light or so many of, again, these up and coming companies, that's exciting. But I expect to get great formula out of a $70 palette. So if this did not perform well, granted, I didn't pay $70 for it, but if it didn't perform well, because I know that's the MSRP, $67 currently, I think, then it would be something to note. So if you watch my video about this, I am talking about the benefits of buying bargain. I also talk about BH Cosmetics' newest announcement about bankruptcy. I don't talk about the shadows at all because they are what I expected them to be. But yeah, this is my newest palette to my collection. And the final prompt in this video is going to be, what is the palette that you used first in 2022? Now that was tricky for me because I used this, the Age of Opulence palette from Beauty Bay, going into 2022. So I'm not sure if that actually counts, but that's what I'm gonna go with. I have always said from the beginning that this palette, to me, just embodies the idea of New Year's Eve glam. So I had to use it on New Year's Eve. It would have felt bizarre not using this palette. So this palette is all so yummy. All these beautiful, rich, deep tones. I love it. It is very dark, so I often pair it with BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles, which is why I bought that palette. It's just all pastels. Not my thing, but they work nicely with deep shades. But yeah, this is the palette that I used, I used it leading into 2022, so that's what I'm gonna choose for this prompt, and I think that counts. So that is everything. That's my little collection tour for the YouTube eyeshadow palette tag. Many thanks to Samantha March and Allie Glines for creating this tag and just giving us a chance to go through our collection and really highlight what we appreciate and why. And I had a lot of fun doing this, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Now I'm gonna go find my vacuum and clean up the glitter which has spilled all over me and have a very small moment of silence for the shade that shattered in my The Child palette. Don't forget that you can like and subscribe if you like this content, and I hope you have a great day. Bye! Hello and welcome back to my channel. I thought that it would be fun to dive onto Can you bring me the bathroom trash can, please? Yeah. Thank you. I don't want to get up because I'll get glitter everywhere. Yeah. The trend of Oh my goodness. That was clumsy. Let me try that again. Dive into the, I thought it'd be fun to form a sentence. People don't get very excited about it. Like, it deserves more attention than it's gotten. It'd be fun to jump. I can't form a sentence. Okay. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I thought oh my word. No.